Cause the town's got your whole song, boy.
What is going on, horror fanatics? Here's Zomboy! Today we're going to be talking about 1980's The Shining. This movie was directed by Stanley Kubrick. It's rated R. IMDb has this one rated as an 8.4 out of 10. Letterboxd has this one rated as a 4.2 out of 5. I'll read the plot. Jack Torrance accepts a caretaker job at the Overlook Hotel, where he, along with his wife Wendy and their son Danny, must live isolated from the rest of the world for the winter. But they aren't prepared for the madness that lurks within. The tagline for this one is a masterpiece in modern horror. So this one stars Jack Nicholson as Jack Torrance, Shelley Duvall as Wendy Torrance, Danny Lloyd as Danny Torrance, and Scatman Carruthers as Halloran. This movie starts off with an amazing overhead shot of a car traveling through the mountains as Jack is going to an interview. He's going to the Overlook Hotel to interview for a caretaker job for someone that needs to stay in the hotel for 5 months during the winter when it's cut off. They need someone to run the heaters and fix anything that needs to be mended. Starts off with the interview. They're asking Jack if he's okay with isolation. He says that's exactly what he's looking for because he's a writer working on a project.
The only thing that can get a bit trying up here during the winter is the tremendous sense of isolation.
Well, that just happens to be exactly what I'm looking for. I'm outlining a new writing project, and 5 months of peace is just what I want.
That's very good, Jack.
They did warn him about the last caretaker, ended up going crazy and killing his wife and 2 children with an axe, and then shooting himself to find an absolute bloodbath at the end of winter. He says he's fine with isolation, being a writer, and that nothing like that would ever happen to him, and his family is looking forward to staying at the hotel as well. You meet Jack's wife Wendy, and his son Danny has an imaginary friend named Tony that speaks from his finger.
I don't know. You do too know. Now come on, tell me. Don't want to. Please. No.
And I think Tony, either Tony or Danny, have a bit of a psychic connection because he knows his dad got the job and that he's about to call to tell mom, and then the phone rings. And then Danny's having weird visions of an elevator with blood pouring out of it and 2 twin girls. Cuts to the next chapter. It's called Closing Day. The family is driving to the hotel right before wintertime. They're driving through the mountains. Danny's in the back seat with no seatbelt on. Times have changed.
Boy, we must really be high up. The air feels so different.
Mm-hmm.
Dad,
Yes?
I'm hungry.
Well, you should have eaten your breakfast.
We'll get you something as soon as we get to the hotel, okay?
Okay, Mom.
When they get to the hotel, they get the grand tour. They show them where they're going to be living for 5 months. And they're showing Wendy and Danny the kitchen and where all the food is stored and the freezer. And you meet Halloran, who is the cook for the hotel that's showing them the kitchen. And he starts to speak to Danny telepathically.
How'd you like some ice cream, Doc?
Sociables, angle rolls, and 7 kinds of what have you.
He tells Danny, let's go have some ice cream, and Mom goes off with someone else, and he takes Danny to go get some ice cream, and he tells him about The Shining.
I can remember when I was a little boy, my grandmother and I could hold conversations entirely without ever opening our mouths. She called it shining. And for a long time, I thought it was just the two of us that had the shine to us. Just like you probably thought you was the only one.
The Shining is a psychic ability, and he could tell that Danny can shine, and that's why they're able to communicate with each other telepathically and can see things in the future. And that's why Danny knows things before they happen. Danny asks him, well, what's in room 237 then? And Halloran gets upset and tells him there's nothing in that room for you. Stay out of that room. And then it fast forwards a month. Jack is attempting to write, but he is having severe writer's block. He's sleeping in pretty much every day, just sitting at a typewriter, not typing anything. Danny and Mom are spending a lot of time playing games and going out and doing the giant maze outside. They have a huge hedge maze outside, and the two spend a lot of time walking through the maze. And then the snow starts to fall, and boy, does it keep falling. It basically covers a good portion of the building. Everything is cut off. The roads are no longer plowable, therefore they are stuck there with no help. They end up losing phones due to the severe snow. Danny starts to see the twins again. He's seen them in hallways and then they disappear. And at one point he sees them in a hallway, and then he sees a vision of them hacked up to pieces on the floor with an axe laying next to him with blood everywhere. Jack is slowly starting to unravel. So you can tell Jack really needs peace and quiet. He's getting upset at Wendy for bugging him when he's trying to write.
Wendy, let me explain something to you. Whenever you come in here and interrupt me, you're breaking my concentration. You're distracting me, and it will then take me time to get back to where I was. Understand?
Yeah?
Fine. And we're gonna make a new rule. Whenever I'm in here, you hear me typing. Whether you don't hear me typing when I'm in here, that means that I am working. That means don't come in. How do you think you can handle that?
And he is just getting really mean to everybody. So you can tell the isolations get to him a little bit. Danny at one point's playing cars in the hallway, and a ball rolls up to him, and he looks back and he sees it's room 237. The door's open and the key is in the lock. So he decides to go check it out and goes into the room. Wendy is checking on the food and she starts to hear screaming, so she follows it, and it is Jack. He's at his typewriter. He has fallen asleep.
Jack! What happened? Honey? What's wrong? Jack?
The most terrible nightmare I ever had.
And when she wakes him up, he says he was having the worst dream he's ever had, and that he killed Wendy and Danny with an axe, and it was awful. And at this point, Danny walks into the room, he's sucking his thumb, not answering anybody. When he walks up, and he's got strangulation marks on his neck, and it's just the three of them there. So she blames Jack, basically tells him he's just a little boy, how dare you.
You son of a bitch! You did this to him! Didn't you? How could you? How could you?
Oh.
Jack's upset because he doesn't get to defend himself. Going for a walk through the halls, he's pretty upset, talking to himself.
Me?
And he walks into the golden room. It's a big empty room with a big bar. So he sits at the bar, covers his face, and when he opens his eyes, you meet Lloyd the bartender.
Hi, Lloyd. A little slow tonight, isn't it?
Yes, it is, Mr. Torrance. What'll it be?
I'm awfully glad you asked me that, Lloyd.
There's a bartender there, and now the bar is fully stocked with liquor. So he tells him he needs a drink. So he pours him some whiskey on the rocks, and Jack's telling him that he just got blamed for something he didn't do, and he explains to him that Wendy's never let it down because 2 years ago, Danny was acting up, and Jack grabbed him by the arm, and he pulled a little too hard and hurt Danny, and that she has never let that down. Jack's sitting at the bar drinking his whiskey when Wendy comes in holding a baseball bat. And she says, oh, thank God. Danny told her that it wasn't Jack and that he was attacked by a crazy woman in a room upstairs. And so Jack asks, what room? Cuts to Halloran. He's laying in bed. He is shining. And he can tell something's not right when he tries to connect to Danny. And then it cuts back to Jack. Jack enters room 237 and goes in, and he finds the bathroom open, all the lights on, and he goes into the bathroom, and there's a woman in the bathtub. She gets out and she's fully nude, and they walk up to each other and start to kiss, because that's what you do when you meet a complete stranger in a bathroom in a hotel. He's kissing this woman, and he looks into the mirror and sees a reflection of an old woman who's rotting. So he pulls away pretty hard, and the woman starts laughing as he leaves the room. He goes back down, and Wendy asks him what he found, and he said, I didn't find anything. The room's empty. And she says, well, you must have been in the wrong room. And he says, no, because the lights were on, the key was in the door, and the door was open. But there was nothing there. Doesn't mention the makeout session he had with a corpse. I probably wouldn't either. Cuts to Halloran. He's trying to call the hotel. Can't get a hold of anybody. Operator tells him the lines are down. So he ends up calling the National Forest Service and asks them to check on them for him. Jack tells Wendy that Danny strangled himself because he wants attention. And so he's acting like a nice, kind father until Wendy says that he needs help and they need to leave the hotel and go get some help for Danny, and he flips out again.
Typical of you to create a problem like this when I finally have a chance to accomplish something, when I am really into my work. I could really write my own ticket if I went back to Boulder now, couldn't I? Shoveling out driveways, working a car wash. Did that appeal to you?
Jack.
Wendy, I have let you my life so far, but I am not gonna let you this up.
So he leaves again and goes for a walk. He ends up walking down the halls, and all of a sudden he sees a bunch of balloons. So he follows the balloons and he can hear music, and he ends up making his way back to the gold room, where there's a huge party going on with hundreds of people. He walks in and sits at the bar, and bartender asks him what he wants, and he tells him he doesn't have any money, and he says it's fine, it's been taken care of already. So he orders some bourbon on the rocks again, and he's drinking that, and he gets up to mingle, and a guy that works at the hotel accidentally spills some drinks on him. So they go to the bathroom, and the guy's trying to clean him up, and then you find out it's Grady. And Jack recognizes the name right away as the man who killed his family. It was his predecessor to the caretaker. And he says, you used to be the caretaker here. And the guy says, nope, you've always been the caretaker. But he says, your boy is naughty and he needs to be taught a lesson. And he starts brainwashing Jack, who agrees. And then Grady tells Jack about his son's ability to shine, and tells him that he has a great ability and that he has already reached out and asked for help and that there is a man coming to the hotel to interrupt everything. It's a pretty dated scene right there because there's some language that we tend not to use these days. He basically talks Jack into turning against his family, and he agrees he's going to teach his family a lesson. Jack goes and finds the CB radio. The National Forest Service is trying to reach out. He ends up opening the back and ripping the insides out to disable the radio. Cuts to Halloran. He is traveling by plane and then by car and then by cat through the snow to get to the hotel because he is worried sick and he knows there's something wrong. Wendy goes looking for Jack. She walks into his work area. She finds it empty, but the typewriter is there with the paper he's working on. And she looks at the paper and it says, "All work and no play makes Jack a dull boy." Over and over again, hundreds and hundreds of pages. And I feel bad for the person that had to write these papers for this movie because these are hand typed. And I found out it was Stanley Kubrick's assistant. She had to type all those. And initially she did them in English and then she did them in other languages as well, but they ended up not using those. And as she's reading all these papers, realizing he has not been working at all, he's just been typing the same thing over and over, Jack walks in and confronts her, and he starts acting crazy. And he is basically talking to her, but backing her up. She's got a baseball bat, and it gets to the point where she starts swinging the bat to defend herself because Jack is being so aggressive towards her.
Stay away from me. Please. Don't hurt me.
I'm not gonna hurt you.
Stay away from me.
Wendy,
Stay away.
darling, light of my life. I'm not gonna hurt you. You didn't let me finish my sentence. I said, I'm not gonna hurt you. I'm just gonna bash your brains in.
And she ends up finally hitting him in the head, and he falls down the stairs. He's unconscious. She ends up dragging his body to the food hold room and locks him inside. He wakes up and he's yelling at her. She explains that she will come back and let him out, but she's gonna go help. And he says, good luck with that. Go look at the radio and the cat. You're not going anywhere. So of course she goes and looks at the radio and realizes it's been disabled. She goes outside in the snow and sees the hood is open and he has ripped a bunch of components of the engine out of the cat. Jack falls asleep in the food storage room and he wakes to some sounds outside the door. When he asks who's there, it is Grady. And Grady makes a deal with him as he's willing to teach his family a lesson like he should have because he failed. He'll let him out. So he agrees, so Grady unlocks the door and lets Jack out of the room. Cuts, we got Wendy, she's sleeping, and Danny is walking through the room saying, "Red rum, red rum, red rum." Danny's walking with a big butcher knife that Mom had, but he's holding it backwards, so he's got the blade towards himself. He grabs some lipstick, walks up to a door while saying "red rum" and writes "red rum" across the door.
Red rum. 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 Red rum.
And he starts saying it louder and louder until Mom wakes up and grabs him, and she looks in the mirror and realizes it says murder.
Red rum! Red rum! Red rum!
not red rum. It's murder. Jack shows up with a big axe and starts to chop the door down. It's locked. So they lock themselves in the bathroom. Once he gets into the room and realizes they're locked in the bathroom, he starts to chop that door down too. So she opens a 2-story window, and there's so much snow outside that she's able to put Danny outside, and he slides down the snow from the 2-story, but she can't fit. So she's hiding behind the door as Jack is cutting it open with a big fire axe. To the iconic scene where he puts his face through the door and says,
Here's Johnny!
Here's Johnny! Then he reaches in to unlock the door and she cuts his hand with the big knife that they had. And then they hear a noise. What is that? It's a cat. Halloran has arrived. So Jack walks away, leaving her. Halloran comes in, he's calling out for anybody, walking through the hotel until Jack blasts him in the chest with a fire axe. Halloran dies. It's very sad. And then he goes looking for Danny. Looks outside and he sees Danny out there. Danny runs into the giant maze. So he follows him in with the big axe, and they're running through this maze through the deep snow. And unfortunately for Danny, Jack's just following his footsteps, so he knows every turn.
Danny! I'm coming!
Cool scene because it looks like snow, and really I think they shot this in the summertime, and it is salt and styrofoam, and so it looks pretty good though. He's following his footsteps, and then Danny gets smart and realizes what's happened, and so he double backs, but he walks through his footprints and then down a different way, but he brushes over all his footprints, and so Jack goes the wrong way and gets lost. And then Danny pops out and starts running back where he came from, following his footsteps to the exit of the maze where he sees his mom, and they get in Halloran's cat and they start driving away. And the last scene is Jack. He is yelling for Danny. He finally collapses because of cold, and then it shows the next morning he's frozen solid, dead. It's panning in to a wall in the hotel, and as it pans closer in, it is a picture from 1921, but in the front of the photo is Jack Torrance. That's the end of the movie. And you may be asking, what does this mean? And that is a great question, because this ending could mean many things. The way I took it, you know, being an old photo, is maybe this is a time loop. Jack killed his family when he was a caretaker in 1921, and he's doing it over and over and over again, and we just happen to see it years down the road. That could be an option. The next option is the Overlook Hotel absorbs souls, adding to its ghostly roster. Jack descends into madness and freezes inside the maze, and he transforms from a man to a ghost, now eternally part of the hotel's history. Reincarnation, that's another option, and that Jack is a reincarnation of a former employee. It's really hard to tell. I mean, I think the time loop thing makes sense to me, and he's stuck in this time loop, and we just happen to see the newest time loop. It's hard to tell. Some fun facts on this movie. Shelley Duvall's bat swinging scene. It took 127 takes to get that finished up, which actually is a Guinness Book of World's Record for most takes with a scene with dialogue. I feel bad for them. And then the elevator scene with the blood. It took a year to finish that. It's the iconic blood rushing out of the elevator scene. Kubrick did it in 3 takes, but each took 9 days to reset the scene for another take. The whole sequence took a year to basically perfect. And the fake snow, it was salt and crushed styrofoam, and they said they used over 900 tons of salt for that scene, and it was actually shot in the summer. I love this movie. Everything about it. This movie is an absolute masterclass when it comes to acting, cinematography, music, the sound design. Everything about this movie screams perfection. I mean, this is almost the perfect horror movie. I will say, I have seen this so many times now that the length of the movie, because it is over 2 hours long, sometimes can be a little dragging. They follow him into madness, and they do such a good job. Jack Nicholson, he did so good in this movie. You really feel his madness, and you can see him slowly unwind as time is going by. And then the music plays such a huge part. It's almost its own character in this. It's just eerie music in all the right places. The spirits are neat. You know, he's talking to himself. The Shining is really cool. And, you know, kids can ruin movies sometimes with acting, and Danny did a great job in this one as well. And I mean, this is got to be a really tough movie to film, but I highly recommend this. If you haven't seen this movie, go watch it. Everything about this movie is absolute perfection. I will say, I've seen this movie so many times. I did watch it again for this episode, and I had a really hard time sitting through it, so I did it in 3 separate stages, only because I've seen it so many times, and it is a very long movie, so it's a commitment to sit through. But watching this family, you know, it's a small cast. Watching them go through the madness and picking up on all the little nuances here and there is just fun. So I highly recommend this. Zomboy says this one is a 4.5 out of 5, but the length drops this one down a half star for me. I really think they could have cut some stuff out of this movie. It is a fun movie to watch. If you haven't seen it, it is just a claustrophobic, cold nightmare that I just love. So Zomboy says go watch it. Appreciate watching this video. I will see you on the next Twisted Terror. So this is Zomboy saying thank you so much, and I'll see you on the next video. Bye.